Hi, it's Nachi Sinha here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So, okay, have you ever been in a situation where you opened up to someone and ended up sharing more than you thought you were going to or you needed to? Now, that can be pretty awkward, right? But we all have experienced these uncomfortable moments of oversharing, telling someone too much about ourselves, so things related to ourselves is not really a good idea. And now, with the help of social media, well, no guesses here, but the oversharing problem has become further exaggerated. So, if this sounds like something that interests you, then keep watching this video to learn a bit more about oversharing and some tips about how to stop it, or if it's happening to you, or to avoid it if somebody's doing it to you. Right, so let's set up a scenario here. You're walking in, and it's the first day at your new job, and you meet new colleagues, right? And one of these colleagues, though, starts talking to you. Everybody does, hopefully, but this one seems to like to talk quite a bit. And they start talking about themselves, their abusive family, ex-boyfriend, current boyfriend, grandfather's ex-partner, and so on and so forth. You get the picture. And perhaps they don't even realize that they've just met you, or maybe they do. But they're now talking about the deepest, darkest secrets. And you didn't even ask about any of that. So now you're stuck in this situation where you suddenly realize you've learned too much about them. But this strange person, the stranger, of course, is you just met and you're not really close to them. It is quite uncomfortable, knowing these details. Now, you might think that the person doesn't know when to stop or who to share stuff with. But you know what? In reality, there are many underlying causes that trigger us to overshare. It triggers us to overshare personal stuff with people around us, even if we just met them. So today we're going to look at some of these reasons why we tend to overshare. Number one, to instantly connect with someone. Now, it makes sense, doesn't it? One of the most common reasons why people overshare stuff is because, we want to connect with people around us, right? So the oversharer believes that expressing and sharing things about their personal life can help them befriend people easily and gain their trust. So they believe that opening up to someone will make them appear friendlier and approachable. The second reason is finding solace in a complete stranger. Many people engage in friendly conversation with others in the waiting rooms, planes, doctors' offices while waiting to be seen, or in hospitals, trains. They introduce themselves and talk about how, they end up where they are right now, where they're headed to, and why, and so on and so forth. We converse with complete strangers on flights or airports and so on, especially when, of course, as traveling picks up a bit more. And we definitely did when we were traveling quite a bit. To kill our time or to calm the anxieties and thoughts that one might have during traveling, or also out of sheer boredom. Now, sometimes these person want to share their dark secrets of trauma with a stranger. Now, the person who's sharing knows that the stranger doesn't know them, so they won't judge them, their actions or decisions, and the oversharer wants someone to listen to their side of the story without interrupting or judging them. Thus, in the process of doing so, they sort of find some comfort and solace in a complete stranger and share all their stuff, hoping that they won't be judged or They don't meet again. Well, sometimes it doesn't like that, does it? Number 3, lack of personal boundaries. Establishing personal boundaries is important, for any healthy relationship as a building block. Now, an oversharer doesn't have proper knowledge of establishing boundaries, so they feel this need to be comfortable with everyone and share everything with everyone without realizing that it might make the person listening uncomfortable. So people with oversharing problems have a blurred idea of what to share and with whom. I mean, they can't apply the simple principle of maintaining and respecting the boundaries between themselves and others. So it does become a bit important to set clear boundaries to avoid oversharing and making people uneasy. Number 4, to gain sympathy or appreciation of others. Now, people often share their life details or painful experiences to seek attention, or gain sympathy. You also see this in people with narcissistic traits, right? I mean, they often share their experiences, sometimes not even true, but they share anyway, adventures or bitter relationship experiences to many people around them, so that it becomes sort of a center of attention. Classic scenario in the middle of a bar, people sitting listening to one person talk about this huge detail. And you get the picture. It kind of feeds the need to make the people around them applaud them for the bravery or smartness. Now, insecure people also like it when they're praised. And they need constant reassurance from people around them to feel secure and confident. Number 5, we're trying to get details about others. Now, this is a tricky one, because when you think about it, let's say you are the person receiving the oversharer's barrage of information. So an oversharer puts the listener in an awkward position, and the listener now is uncomfortable, right, knowing that the person referred to the oversharer and doesn't know what to do or say or how to react into the situation. So what does the oversharer do? To respond and to put the listener do to respond and to put the oversharer at ease. You know that the listener shares similar experience or their views regarding the oversharer's position. For example, let's say the oversharer is telling the person about the cheating partner, and let's say they're sharing it with a new colleague. Now, that put the colleague in an uncomfortable position where to ease the discomfort and sort of not knowing what to do and just unnecessarily needing ourselves to make things okay as a human being, the colleague then ends up sharing details about their own relationships or how their own partner cheated on them. So what's ended up happening is that the listeners sort of got manipulated into sharing details about their own personal life by the oversharer. Now, whether it's been done on purpose or not, that's a different conversation. But that's what ended up happening. The listener just shared details of their life, and the oversharer did so apparently to trick the person into doing so. So now that we've got an idea about what oversharing looks like, feels like, and the reasons behind it, hopefully we've got to talk about how to deal with somebody who's oversharing with you. Yeah, because discomfort is to, when a stranger has just dumped a lot of information onto you, discomfort of that is very understandable. So we're going to talk about 3 tips to ease this discomfort a bit and to kind of steer the conversation away from this big personal topic sort of thing into something much lighter and less deep, I guess more superficial. Right? So first tip, of course, would be to subtly try and change the topic, Suppose you meet your friend's cousin at a party and you greet each other, and the next thing you know, they start sharing their extremely personal stuff. They talk about their intimate details with the partner and making you uncomfortable, right? I mean, instead of letting them talk about their personal stuff, you can try to deviate the conversation's topic to something else. For example, I mean, I wonder what time it is, or when you make a phone call, oh, by the way, the food is nice. What do you think about that? Or something random is, oh, just need to make a phone call. But you see, I mean, this is discomfort. Again, the idea of doing that is also causing discomfort, right? So, but you're hoping that in most cases, the oversharer will take the cue and won't overshare their life's personal details with you anymore. But guess what? As discomforting as it is for you to say that and to make those cues, it's nothing compared to how you're feeling when you're dealing with them giving you all the personal information. But what if the person doesn't take the hint or doesn't want to take the hint? What happens if they keep going on and on? Well, hopefully tip number 2 would come in handy. Number 2 is take a direct and polite approach. So, if listening to someone's private life is sort of like getting to a point and they're not stopping and it's becoming too much, you need to get them to stop, right? But you've got to be polite about it. And if it's a work situation, then also professional about it. So, for example, you can tell them a share, hey, what we just met, wouldn't it be nice if we get to know each other a bit more before we start talking about this heavy stuff? Or, I don't think sharing your personal stuff with me is a good idea. It kind of makes things a bit difficult in the workplace. Or, for example, something like, I know you're going through a hard time, I understand that, but I don't think I'm the right person to talk to about these things. And maybe, you can try talking to so-and-so and like that. Many times, people do have a hard time maintaining boundaries. And addressing your concerns can help them sort of censor the details about their life when they're around you. And if that doesn't help, well, this is another tip, number 3. Do not respond. Now, it is difficult to change the subject or directly tell the person about the oversharing problem when the person actually has some power over you. For example, the person is your boss. Now, your boss might start disliking you, or they might think that, listen, I'm trying to tell them about my deepest, darkest problems and they don't really care. You don't know what's going through their mind. But the problem is that your boss might end up disliking you and can cause problems for your workplace. So what do? Well, the first thing you do is make sure that you don't end up sharing your personal information with them. Just listen to them, but don't respond. Don't end up giving your own secrets or past details to match up and create the sense of normalcy around the boss and around what the boss just disclosed to you. Right? So important to keep that at the back of your mind. Now, as we're talking about this, you're realizing, of course, that, maybe it's not the biggest issue in the world, but it does have an impact on day-to-day life, right? So the important thing now, moving forward, is to actually think about how do we avoid oversharing if it's us who's doing it? When you think back now, at some point in our lives, we might have realized that we told somebody a bit too much about ourselves and our lives. Now, we might even regret that decision, and sort of that itself will cause anxiety and thinking about, did I say too much and so on. But if you think you've got a problem with oversharing, don't worry, we're going to talk about some tips for you. Applying these tips, and practicing them regularly, like learning a new good habit, it will become second nature to you, and hopefully you won't have to worry about oversharing. So, moving on to the 3 tips to avoid oversharing. Number 1. The first tip would be to establish clear boundaries about who you will talk to about your personal stuff. It might sound easy to what you're talking about, but no, just write it down on a piece of paper or something so it's in black and white and you can see it. Make your rules. For example, you can write it down in diary as I will only talk to Billy and George about my personal problems, or you can say I will only talk to Sam about this, and so on and so forth. So clear boundaries will prevent you from talking about deeply personal stuff with people that you just meet, either at work or randomly at a party or whatever. And writing it down sort of reminds you. It can be on your phone, and somewhere where you can see it. So it kind of is like a reminder. Number 2, the second tip would be, is to be mindful. We often overshare stuff when we don't pay attention while talking. Be mindful of what you're saying and to whom. Surprise, surprise, mindfulness does play an effective role in controlling what comes out of our mouths. So just because it's in my head doesn't mean it has to come out of my mouth. Right? And number 3, the third tip, is to be an active listener when you are around new people. Well, if the purpose is to build relationships and get to be liked and mingle and create a social circle, then pay attention to what's being said around you. People like listeners, active listeners. Don't, reply, or don't sort of succumb to the urge to reply and jump into the conversation just because you feel like you have to say something or answer this random question that's been put up there. You don't have to. There are no rules that you have to. Just actively listen and don't jump into it. And even if you do, please do not cross the boundary that you only just established for yourself. Now, you probably just watched this video because you came across it, you thought about it, or perhaps you struggle with this, or you know somebody who does struggle with it. And now that we've discussed it, it's sort of giving you a bit of stress and anxiety. But don't worry. It's as long as you're aware of it, then you can make some, corrective measures and change things about how you approach it, right? And don't forget, once again, picking up a new habit takes a bit of practice before it becomes natural. So if there's anybody who might benefit from this, I guess share the video. In the meantime, though, if you notice there's something that bothers you or is causing you concern, then reach out, ask for help. Help does make a difference, so don't hesitate. Alright then, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will of course come back with a different video. Meantime, take care, look after yourself. Bye-bye.